Look at that smooth transition. Kelsey,
James.
talk to me. It's been 3 sessions so far.
Mm-hmm.
You've experienced the hard life in the ancient days of Quelmar, and you've experienced the struggles of Plutarch in his life. What what are you looking forward to diving into uh, more? Are you looking forward into diving into Plutarch's own self-deprived sort of struggles, his the inner struggles that Plutarch's dealing with, and his rise to heroism? Or are you looking forward to Alexi and her rip and tear, basically going full blooded barbarian as she survives her way through dragon territory?
Yeah, I actually think it's the former. I find Plutarch a lot more fun to play just because I think it lets us as people play these really out there characters, and you can be a bit more um you can just be a bit more with them in the dramatics, and
Mm-hmm.
it's quite fun. Um, so I definitely am looking forward to more work with Plutarch just because I think that character arc has a lot more to go in terms of growth. I think he has a lot more to do and to prove, so that's going to be quite fun.
Yeah, I absolutely. Just right out of the gate with Pluto, when once we met him, and then we saw him dealing with his. I mean, just he was so angry and so confused at everything, and everybody had to keep sort of working with him and helping him and giving him drinks. And I don't know. You've created a very volatile character who starts at a low, right? We first meet Plutarch. He's like passed out in an alley somewhere, you
Pretty
know,
much.
and this is a story about destiny and fate and having responsibility thrust onto you. So I think of all five descendants, Pluto is in the best position to have this change him for the better, so to say. You know.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Just because when I was, and we talked about this a couple times, just when I was trying to make Plutarch or Pluto, we were talking about the different routes we could go with the descendant, and I was playing with the idea of something completely drastic, something very, very much different than the ancestor.
Would you say
Because
that Pluto is the polar opposite of Alexi?
oh my gosh. So you're catching on to my logic there. Um, um, uh, in certain ways, yes. I think because of the sort of way I wrote his backstory, he kind of has become a bit of the polar opposite. He's lost his tribe. He's lost, at least he believes, any ounce of honor, and is quite convinced there is no honor left in Quelmar because of how things worked out.
Yeah.
And Alexi's a bit different. Alexi, I wrote Alexi to be sort of like a very strong and uh like almost like a general that turned into like an ambassador that's trying to help make the way for Beastfolk in Quelmar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they both started at very sort of honorable positions. It's just one transitioned into a more successful present day, their present day, whereas Plutarch obviously did not.
So would you say maybe Alexi already had, before the series, sort of also had this arc, and this is where she's landed, as opposed to Pluto, who has yet to undergo that arc?
I guess the idea is that they kind of have a very, of course, unknowing of each other, they have a very similar origin.
Mm-hmm.
They were well liked and had a good sense of pride and accomplishment within their beast folk tribe. But I kind of one of the things I was going for in this ancestral line is that, we can have the same as someone else, but just because you're given the same thing as someone else doesn't mean you're going to succeed like they did. You know, there are many factors out there that kind of inherently shape the way a person or a character goes throughout their life. And one of the cool things I wanted to do with this sort of game is show how you can diverge quite drastically from one another, even if you start from that same line.
Yeah, no, that's actually really powerful. The message you're trying to convey with these two is really wide reaching and a bit of commentary on things, isn't it? So I think in that regards, then it's more like, Alexi has had the privilege to reach where she has, but Plutarch unfortunately was not blessed with such things, and so it's not really like Alexi had to work her way up. It was more like things were easier for her, whereas Plutarch's life and things around him, the factors in his life, have led him to where he is now. And yeah, so that is pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So now that I've discovered that your character is actually color commentary on society, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you build characters. So you've been playing D&D for a while now, right? How long have you been playing?
I started, actually, I didn't start playing until I got out of high school. Like maybe the summer after graduating high school.
Okay, so like 4 years,
like
maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
So you've built a lot of characters.
It's been on and off though. Like, so I would say it's a bit intermittent through the.
Can you walk us through your character creation process? When you sit down with a blank sheet, what do you think of first? Is it backstory? Is it class, race? Is it the numbers? How does Kelsey build a character?
Well, I guess the first thing I do is I think about the DM. If I'm being given certain information about, like, sometimes you give us information about the setting and whatnot.
Sure.
I think about that. And especially when I have to play one-shots that are supposedly TPKs, I try to build broken characters so I don't die. But I think the first thing I do is just I sit down and I think about the sort of setting or the information I've been given by the DM about what kind of game we're playing, where we're playing, the time period. And so then I try, and then I open my player's handbook, and then I start looking at all the races, and I guess sometimes it's a bit more, ooh, I haven't played this race yet. I want to play this race. Okay. Other times it's like with this game, it was heavily influenced on your your backstory information that you gave us in the world of Quelmar. But for like other campaigns, I'll just kind of like roulette it, where it's like, oh, I haven't played this before, because I've had to DM a few games, and by playing different classes and different races, as a player, you learn more about that. So that way, when you go to DM, you're a bit more knowledgeable, I think.
So as somebody who has run games, you find that playing is almost like a way of play testing the game, so that you just sort of have that's good. That as a game master who doesn't play very often, that's actually really good to know.
Yeah, I think playing, it's like practicing, right? Mm-hmm. You don't ever practice and just go up for like a concert performance. You have to practice by yourself, practice in a group, that sort of thing. So that's kind of why I encourage myself to try very different very, very different combinations. So
that's fascinating. No, absolutely. But like Matt was saying before you, he saw himself as sort of a Pokemon collector, where he was like, I want to collect them all. I want to play every race. I want to play every class. Yeah, are you also working on a checklist?
Maybe, just maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it makes you a better player too. It's like, I don't know if anybody plays Magic the Gathering, but like,
I'm sure there are people who play Magic the Gathering.
But like, it's kind of like the color deck you play, right? You can get very good at that deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then like sometimes when you go to play drafts, right? Well, you can't use that deck. You got to build one, and I think it makes you a better player too, kind of having that by trying all these different flavors, you can yeah, you might lean towards one, but it also makes you more aware of your party,
So then I
right?
have a very tricky question for you. Follow-up
Mm-hmm.
question.
Yeah.
So now knowing that you are the experimenter who wants to try everything, it must have been a very distinct and purposeful decision to do Barbarian twice. Of our ancestor descendant lines, you are the only person who double dipped, right? Plutarch
Right.
is as barbaric, just as much, full blooded barbarian as Alexi. So what drove you to keep the barbarian line going? Did you ever think about doing other classes instead?
I did actually. But if we're being honest, there's a few things that made me want to stay barbarian. One, I could just kind of copy off of Alexi and do less work. But I would say more more strongly a reason is because I was going for that same sort of origin story, right? Here are
Mm-hmm.
two characters that essentially have a very similar beginnings. They both fought in their tribe, and they became very accomplished warriors for their tribe, right? And again, we're going for that, we're on the same path, but where does that diverge happen, and
Mm-hmm.
why? And I to me, the truth is there isn't really a why did one end up good and the other one bad, right? Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. You can do everything exactly right and still come up short. Something could happen, and it might not even be your fault.
I love this. You're making me smile so much. I love that your character is a
Oh,
statement, right? I think you're the only one here who has used this opportunity to really make a statement about something, which is brilliant. I mean, you're a genius. We all know that. Um,
please don't call me
so
that.
so I'm unsurprised that you are the one who has found something deeper to dig into here. We do have a question from the chat. Somebody's asking, do you ever feel intimidated now that you are playing with a group of actors, in some cases professional actors, in some
Oh,
cases?
absolutely. Are you kidding me? Like, they start whipping out these accents, and I'm just sitting over here like, oh boy, I'm gonna insult some people if I try any of that. So maybe we shouldn't do that. But again, it's one of those things where, and you'll find it in any field, whether you're a scientist, you're an actor, you're culinary artist, right? Being around better people makes you better just inherently. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, it's a bit daunting, absolutely. Um,
How would you
but
say this compares to some of your other tables where you're with other scientists or students, STEM people?
well, it's always hard whenever I play D&D just because it might not be in the time period we are, and of course I've had to learn stupid amounts of math and science. So I want to be like, hang on, that's not possible. But you can always throw it over the rug of it's magic. It doesn't have to make sense.
I've dealt
So,
with more than a few of those players over the years, right? You always
um,
have the person who thinks D&D is a simulator, right? Like it's some sort of physics simulation. Um,
right. Uh, but I guess, can you say the question again? Sorry,
yes. Do you feel intimidated when you are now playing with a group of everybody else as an actor, right? Where they've
I
done a ton of
think,
acting.
yeah, I mean, at first, especially when you don't know the people as well, like I've played with, I believe, Jeff once or
Mm-hmm.
twice online with you, James,
Yep.
but everyone else I kind of didn't know. But the really beautiful thing about D&D, I think, is that there aren't a bunch of a-holes that commit this amount of time to something like this, right? We're not growing in the social standard way of like, in our lives. So to dedicate this much time to something like this, I think these are all great people, and it's just a matter of you gotta be okay with the fact that you might not be as good as other people or knowledgeable, but as long as you keep an open mind and remember that we're doing this for fun,
Yeah.
I think that helps ease the tensions. And I mean, as you saw by session 3, I was ready to go.
I was gonna say Pluto. Like, I'm not saying he ran session 3, but session 3, like start to finish, I was just tracking Pluto's whole thing. You know, it opens with Pluto being pulled in, and then Pluto in falling out of the sky, and everything Pluto did. Pluto and the alcohol. You know, it was Pluto who drove us to be like, get all the mini fridges. You know, and getting the utter moron out, having that flask that everyone's trying. I will say, you came out on top, really. You know, I think, you know, like you're saying, if maybe you were a little in the background for sessions 1 and 2 as you sort of got your footing, session 3, and for that reason, I'm very excited to revisit Alexi now. So next Monday, we'll be going back to the past, and we've got a mission, right? We've got this dragon kidnapping mission we've got to undergo, and we'll see where Alexi lands in that.
Yeah, and if I can say one more thing about, you know, since we're on the topic of like character building, you know, a good thing about challenging yourself to try different things also really helps sort of push you along in working with the group you have. I'm not saying try to play a lawful evil character with an entirely lawful good group. That's going to cause a lot of problems. But also by building these characters, I think they can help put you out there and help develop some really awesome friendships and just at least accelerate that.
So with when you're building these two characters, do you have problems differentiating their personality, like their voice and demeanor and personality at the table in the game?
You know, I want to say yes, but I've played Alexi twice, and like you said, I was a bit more relaxed with Alexi because or reserved because, you know, one, I'm getting used to the game and I'm trying to figure out what that character is, just because that character doesn't have something, you know, astoundingly prevalent like an alcoholic addiction. So I think in terms of playing each character, I think it can be a bit of a, you know, it's a like push and pull in terms of figuring out how to best display this character in my voice. Like, I'm sorry if I'm letting people down. I am terrible at accents. You're not.
Nobody expected an accent. Nobody's asking for an accent.
But I'm still trying to figure that out. But at least with the Ursin, I can do some more like deep growls and whatnot.
So do you think this reservation that sort of is accidentally crept into Alexi, do you think going forward you might make that a choice? Or do you think Alexi will be coming out of her shell and we'll be seeing a little more louder behavior?
I'm not sure, because I built Alexi to not necessarily be a super star character. You know, Alexi has this warrior like background, but if you read the stuff I wrote, which, I mean, I'm sorry if I spelled something wrong, I'm terrible at spelling. Alexi doesn't necessarily take charge. She's been very instrumental in a lot of progress for Beastfolk, but you'll see they always ask. I put in there that, you know, they always ask her, well, why don't you just become like the tribal leader or the captain of the warriors that she represents? And she's always a little hesitant because she doesn't necessarily want that. She likes where she is right now. She's a venerated warrior who's now working on, you know, getting more rights for Beastfolk. And part of the reservation comes from the fact that if she were to move to a higher standing, at least on the warrior side, that would be a lot harder to maneuver in like the ambassador sort of place.
So Eva's saying in the chat here, so an Aragorn type is...
Okay, yeah. Okay, you caught me.
Which is, I mean, everybody loves Aragorn for a reason. So I think for that reason we may start to, and I mean, we're gonna get more Alexi over time, right? So even though Alexi has been reserved, may still be reserved, we're gonna get many more sessions out of Alexi, and who knows? I've always been a fan of character arcs over a campaign, even if the campaign isn't necessarily character oriented. So short digression. Short tangent. I always like to build campaigns that sort of revolve around the ideas characters come up with. My offline campaign right now, I mean, is 2/3 things the players have invented, and then 1/3 like just a base storyline in the background. But this campaign's very different, right? So this campaign, it's almost like the story was already built start to finish, and then you guys are telling these character stories inside of it. So for that reason, it's strange, right? But I think what I love is hearing and seeing these story arcs come to fruition. We talked a little bit about Pluto, how he's sort of got this opportunity now for him, and I think I digress. I think what we're seeing is Alexi may also have an opportunity. We may be seeing Alexi come out of her shell, maybe. Who knows? We have a lot of games ahead of us, a lot of unknowns.
Right.
But I'm glad to hear you're thinking about it too, because I love Alexi just as much as I love Pluto. I can't pick a favorite child. You guys are all just doing such an exceptional job, and thank you for that. So what was I going to say? I always lose my train of thought. So when it comes to the realm itself, talking a little bit about Quelmar in general now, I wanted to talk to you because you're one of the few people playing who's also been a dungeon master, but not just a dungeon master, but a dungeon master of other. So for instance, Liana has run some games, but she's run pretty much exclusively Quelmar games. Matt Demetrides was looking. I think he ran 1 or 2 sessions, but everybody else has been running Quelmar games. You've run games. What realms have you run other sessions in? What's your preferred setting?
Well, I'm a bit of a Tolkien lover.
Okay.
So I try to. I love diving into those very sort of archaic settings where, not much technology. You just have your big meaty paws or claws, depending on the race.
Right.
Because I think what's really interesting about that is you're playing with characters and people, right, who are very much aware of, this day and age, the technological advances. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a fun challenge, although I wouldn't call session 1 a fun challenge when you took away my axe.
It would have weighed you down. You would have sank to the bottom of the ocean if you hung on to that.
That is fine. I'll die with my axe in my hand. But I think it can be fun.
So have you run adventures in Middle Earth?
Okay, so yes and no. I've never explicitly said this is Middle Earth.
Okay.
But I have done like some of the D&D books, like Curse of Strahd. Mm-hmm. That was fun. But most of the games I've run, unless it's a one-shot, because I can just steal that from somewhere on the internet, like an idea for it.
Yeah.
Like I did a wild sheep chase once.
Hey. Yeah. So it's a pretty popular one.
Yeah. And so, but I never... The game I DM'd for, I never explicitly said, and thank God they never explicitly asked me, where are we? So I tried to keep it pretty open. That way anything is possible.
Okay, I see. But it's always sort of in the back of your head, secretly, this Middle Earthen sort of land.
Yeah, because that's the only place, for me at least, because I grew up on Tolkien, and I'm a huge nerd of it. I always kind of grew up on that. That is the source of where the magic and the fiction and the fantastical sorts of events happen.
So that's funny, because before you, Matt was talking about this sort of steampunk era and how much he loves it, and he was like, I can't wait to dive more into this modern steampunk. But that's not the case for you.
Well, I absolutely like the modern steampunk. It's new to me. Yeah. It's very new. You sent us a message, hey guys, you can have guns. And I'm like, what? Projectiles that we don't physically throw? What is this? Because I've never really played in sort of, those anything close to like the time period we're in.
Yeah.
So I really think it's cool because we have technology, and my science brain is like, yes. But I'm really enjoying it. You're kind of encouraging me to like try different time eras out because it's really nice.
good.
We're in a giant facility with big, machines that are blowing up. It's quite great.
Yeah. So you love the Tolkien setting for its familiarity, but you also are a big fan of strange and unknown and new. So you're kind of getting both sides of it here in this campaign. I think you're getting spoiled. I think maybe you're getting spoiled here. Maybe I should take out one of these eras. Kelsey's enjoying herself too much.
You do that, James. You do that.
No. So, is there anything else you wanted to talk about for any of your characters, for the game, for... I don't have a list of questions or anything, so it's just free discussion. If anybody in the audience has more questions about Kelsey, her experience, D&D, Pluto, or Alexi, or anything else, is this your first time playing? Math and work. You got Calc 2 going on. No, is this your first time playing a guy with Pluto? How often do you sort of gender swap?
I try to play more female characters than male, but this is not my first male character. Again, it's part of it's that trying to push me to try different things route. But I think both are just as fun,
I don't think gender really has
No,
a huge role.
absolutely not. But I think it definitely, like I said before, it makes you think. It makes you be more perceptive. It puts things into perspective in terms of, I'm not, and that's, I think the danger of making a character so much like yourself is, well, things can happen and you can actually feel it. And not saying that it's a bad thing to make characters that are very similar to yourself, but it can be very, it can get very bland, I think.
Yeah.
So
do you ever hear the idea that everybody's first character is just basically themselves in fantasy?
Oh, that's what I did. Yeah. My very first campaign.
How did you get involved in D&D?
So, okay. Quick story. So part of the reason why I went into physics was I had an awesome high school physics teacher. She was brand new. I got her my first year. It's funny because I refused to sign up for physics, so I signed up for astronomy. One day in astronomy, I was like, this is terrible. And so I switched to standard physics. And I was like, man, I'm never going to astronomy again. Gosh. And so what ended up happening was she really, her name was, are we allowed to say names? I won't say names.
You can say first name, but yeah, I mean, that's up to you.
The teacher really helped me become a better person. And then I stayed in contact with, after I graduated, with her and a bunch of my friends. We would just hang out in her room and do nerdy stuff like magic and whatnot. And then once we graduated, we were like, why don't we try some D&D? And so she became the DM for our group.
The teacher.
And then, and then, now she runs D&D all as an after-school activity at my old high school. It's amazing.
Awesome.
And so... and she like helps other kids run their own campaigns, and it's great. And so that's how it started. After we graduated, we all started getting together and playing D&D. And so the first character I made was too similar to myself because I was having a bad day, like second session, and I murdered like everybody in the town.
Oh, very much like Kelsey.
Because, well, I was having a bad day, and I was emotionally
exactly what Kelsey would do, is murder everybody in the town.
Murder everybody. But, like, because my character was so much like myself, I couldn't get past, like, the crap I brought in with me to that session. And so I ended up, completely, we can't go back to that city. That's fine.
That's fair.
So.
No, thank you so much. I have taken several notes here just because I have learned a lot about Pluto and Alexi, and I'm very excited to see more of them. But it is 8:30, so we will go ahead. We will let you go and enjoy your night. We will see you next week.
Yes, you will.
We'll be bringing Alexi back, kidnapping some dragons. I am incredibly excited. And that's going to be it. So thank you so much, Kelsey. Everybody say bye, Kelsey.
James,
Everybody in the chat saying bye. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you've just done an amazing job. This is an amazing campaign, and I'm having so much fun. Like, thank you so much for.
It's all good players is a good campaign. Bad players will ruin the best campaign in the world. So, it really comes down to you guys. But I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to bring in Matt here, our other Matt. Farewell, Kelsey.
Bye-bye.
And
hello.
There he is. Whoa! Let me resize your face for a second here. Everybody else's cameras was at sort of middling distance. So
yeah,
you and your big close-up cam. There we go. Great.
I don't know why.
No, it looks great. You got a great camera. What webcam do you use? Do you use the C920 or whatever it is?
It is a Logitech, and it says HD 720p on it.
720, not 920. Yep, that's the one.